Hey, Chamber members, it is Alan Waters, your Marketing and Communications Coordinator with the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Words of Wisdom podcast. Today, I am joined by
Janelle Anderson.
Thank you, Janelle, for being here on this Monday morning. I'm going to go ahead and apologize. I'm a little sleepy, so as we get through, my questions might be a little... take some time to come out. See, even there, that my words weren't together.
That's okay.
So tell us, the first question I ask everybody is, what is success to you? What does success mean to you? And this doesn't need to be solely personal, solely professional. A little bit of both is totally fine.
Okay. Yeah, to me, success means that I am prospering and I'm thriving. I'm doing what I love to do. I am doing what I feel called to do. I believe everybody has a calling and a purpose, and when you are living true to that, then you prosper. The feeling of success to me is very closely linked to that. It's not just making money, making a good living, or having a job, although all those things are great, and I like to make money as well. But to me, like, if I'm doing what I feel really called to do and I'm helping other people to do what they're called to do, that's when I feel the most successful. And of course, being healthy and having a family that's healthy and happy, and family time is important as well. But yeah, I'd say that's success. I would like to make a good living. I enjoy having enough and more than enough so that I can be generous and not struggle along. But to me, success is more about really feeling like I'm fulfilling that higher calling, and I'm really making a difference in people's lives and really love what I do.
Has that always been the case? Has that always been what you see success as, or is that something you've kind of learned along the way and changed and adapted?
I think it's something that I began to understand probably around the time I became a coach. So around that time, I was also going through a lot of personal development and introspection and deeper healing and looking at my life in a different way. So up until then, I always say I was kind of walking in my sleep, how we sometimes, operate on autopilot. And I had always wanted to be a teacher. So I became a teacher and taught school for 20 some years. And I would have called that my definition of success, because I was, again, doing what I love to do. But in terms of like financial success, it wasn't great. I was teaching in a small Christian school, and they couldn't pay very much, and we really struggled financially for years. And so I add that into my definition of success now, because it's really no fun to struggle financially. And I always kind of had this thing about money, like if you talk about money, it's uncomfortable and you shouldn't want to be rich and wealthy and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like when you are doing what you're called to do and you love to do it, you should also be prospering financially. I feel like that's a part of it.
There's always something to, I'm a big lover of nonprofits and things like that. And I understand that when you get to those things, there's a limited amount of funds. But if I'm working 60 hours a week and I'm still struggling to make ends meet, I'm not going to be happy. And if I'm not happy and taken care of, I'm not going to be with that organization for a really long time.
Yeah. I'm
a big believer of I want to love what I do, but I am still working, so I need to get paid for it adequately as well. So I like hearing that. With teaching, I come from a big education family. Did you find that as being an educator and being in the world of education, that has transformed how you approach people and how you approach situations? And I ask that because I know on the outside it's easy to look at education and say, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. But being in that classroom is an entirely different ordeal.
Definitely.
So being a teacher, coming out of that, how did that shape Janelle and emerging life coaching?
Well, it's interesting because I have always wanted to teach. And when I was a little girl, I used to play school in my basement. And I would invite all the neighborhood kids to come over, and I'd set up their little desks. And I wasn't happy just playing, though. It was real to me. So I wanted to make sure I taught them something new. And so it's always been a part of me. And when I wasn't teaching anymore, but I was working at Virginia Tech in the Women's Center, and everybody at Virginia Tech has the ability to take the Strengths Finder assessment. So I did. I love assessments anyway. And that showed me one of my top strengths was developer, which for me and my particular set of strengths, that meant seeing the potential in people and drawing it out of them. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, well, no wonder I always wanted to be a teacher, because that was the part of teaching that I loved.
Right.
And all the rest of it, like all the paperwork, and you had to teach to the test, and you had to do all these things that take you away from teaching. That's what really wore me out. I really became overwhelmed and burnt out as a teacher, and finally just stepped out of the classroom. But when I began coaching, I realized that that teacher is still in me. And although coaches don't teach, but there's an aspect to my business where I add that in, because there's a lot of times where people just don't know, and I want to share with them the things that I do know and help them reach their potential again. And so, that gift of teaching, or that inborn ability and desire to teach, is still with me. It just shows up now through my business. And it's one of my favorite parts of it too. Like if I do a webinar or a workshop, like I get to plan out some kind of learning path and share this with people and help them grow, and that's always been there. So I think the way that I look at education for me now is that part of it. And that was the part I loved when I was a teacher in the classroom. And I really think that, again, like with the strengths, if teachers were allowed to teach to children's strengths and bring out of them their innate potential and let them grow in their own way and learn in their own way, if we were able to do that in our education system, we'd be a lot better off.
Oh yeah, I fully agree, and I know that comes down to sort of a matter of opinion. My dad's a superintendent, and so we talk about this all the time, that standardization of education is to a degree really hindering students' abilities to show. I mean, when I was in high school, I never knew the pathways that I would end up taking were ever available. So like to have that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Looking at your version of success and what success means to you, and then looking at the business side of things, how do you use that to implement your business goals and set your goal points throughout the year?
So it's interesting because this definition, has really kind of evolved and developed, especially in recent years. And so what I'm planning now, I just am starting a brand new program. It's a mastermind. My year-long program is my high-end offer, right? It's the one that makes me the most money, but it's also the one that gives me the opportunity to spend the most time with my clients and really go deeper and help them have a deeper transformation, because they have a whole year. And mainly I work with coaches and authors and speakers, people like that, who are trying to get their expertise out in the world in their own way and help them build that structure underneath their business so that they can sustain it and thrive and prosper. And so the word prosper has really come up to the front, to the top, and I've named my mastermind Prosper. And just really looking at the meaning of that word, which means to thrive and to flourish, but it also means to succeed and make money and, be happy. It means to be healthy. It sort of encompasses everything. So I like that better than profit. Prosper to me is like this whole body, mind, soul kind of idea. And so when I'm looking at the things that I'm putting out there, or creating for clients, I always keep that in my mind, that I want to help them prosper, body, mind, soul, spirit, that everything they're doing is cohesive and synced together, and that they know what why they're doing what they're doing, why do they want to do what they're doing, and to really be connected to that inner purpose as well, because that's where I think the thriving and the prospering really comes from. So everything I do is really, I do a lot of professional development with people building their business and getting out there and speaking and learning how to speak and present themselves so they can grow their audience, so they can grow their business. But why? Why do you want to do this? What is your true message? What is your purpose? So if I can connect that with people in my whatever I do, then I feel like I'm fulfilling my own calling.
Right.
If I just showed people how to create a business, I wouldn't feel full, So.
And in that, I know this is actually, to me, this is a very big question that is hard to nail down. For you, what is that why? Mm-hmm. Beyond what we just heard, for you as a person getting out of bed each morning, what's that why that keeps that drive going?
Yeah, so it goes way back, actually. And this is something I've spent a lot of time thinking about and pondering and writing out and all of that. I have journals upon journals. I wrote a book, several books, but my latest book really kind of encapsulates that why. I didn't really know what my why was until I was able to go through this period of unpacking things that I had never really understood about my past. So I went through a period of trauma in my 20s that I just didn't talk about and I didn't look at. And I didn't think it was affecting my life until I started unpacking it. And then it was like 30 years before I ever unpacked it and looked at it and processed it. And I looked back through those years and I thought, wow, that was impacting me a whole lot more than I ever thought. But now so many things are making sense as to why I made the choices I made, why I didn't show up in my own life the way that I truly wanted to, why I kind of hid in the background and played small and was afraid to take risks and didn't go after my dreams and things like that, and didn't have the confidence, didn't speak up for myself or share my opinions. There were so many things in my life that were impacted by that trauma that I never dealt with. And so as I unpacked it and understood it and healed from it and forgave people and forgave myself and really just, I call it a shame cloak, took it off and realized who I really was and started to really get to know the real me, that's when my why began to really be clear to me. And it was that underneath everything I do, I want to help people find their own voice and the confidence to live their life. Like the title of my book is Take Center Stage, Be the Star of Your Own Story. Like to come into that place of their life and take that place in the middle of their own life as them. Mm-hmm. And I see so many people not doing that and not even knowing what their true identity is and trying to play these different roles, trying to please other people. Because, you look around, people are so busy. They're just trying to earn a living. They're just trying to raise their family. And they go through life not really even being connected to who they truly are. And it often starts to happen in your older years. You start to think, well, that's what happened to me. I was like 50-something, and I thought, wow, time's going by so fast. Am I really living the life that I should be living? And you start to ask yourself these questions. And it's because we don't take that time, So that why for me came from all those years and just my transformation. It happened about 15 years ago when I really went through this inner healing, I call it. I realized that really drives everything I do. Even though on the outside, I'm helping people put together a presentation or, put on a virtual event. That's something I do a lot with coaches and just teaching them how to put together a workshop so they can, that's an outer thing. Mm-hmm. But what drives me even more is helping them to find their true voice and be able to articulate it and speak it and get their message out in the world. Because for so many years I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I see so many people not really living up to that fullest potential. I think everyone has a message to share or a gift to give and their part in the world that they're uniquely designed, to fulfill it. And I think that, and it also ties back to my, that one of those strengths, the developer strength is to see that in people. Like right, I can't help it.
Yeah, absolutely. So. I'm a big proponent of mental health awareness and unpacking with a professional the traumas they go through, because I actually had this conversation with my parents this weekend. I realized so many things that I do in my life that I could tie back to a trauma. And even as simple as, I was like, y'all, I don't know if you realize this, but like when I'm laying down at night, if I hear even a cat walking across the house, I can tell. Or when we were in New York, I could always, for some reason, know when that front door closed, that one time I'd be like, oh, Rachel's coming home. I know that's her. There's not really a logic behind it in my brain, other than the fact that, like, I realized looking at some of my traumas from growing up were auditory based. And here we are, auditory element. Maybe that's what lead into it. So one question before we head into break, to kind of take this part together. Looking at those goal steps and looking at when people are looking to make their goals for their business in the world, what role does education play into that, do you think? Because I believe with education that when you're making your goals, if you're not also planning to grow and learn yourself, that you're going to hit a stagnation.
Definitely.
Whatever that word is. But for you, what do you think personally, but also for your clients, that education role comes into setting up those goalposts?
Oh, definitely. I'm always personally looking to learn and grow, and have invested a lot in my own growth professionally through the years, and especially when I became a coach, I paid to go to a very high level school and get the best I could, and get certified. And a lot of people don't, because it's not a regulated industry, so they just say they're a coach. But I was like, I want to be the best I can be, and so there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of skills involved, and so then from there on, I've invested in business building programs and developing speaking skills, and I love to learn. It's another one of my top strengths, actually. But I also believe that, like you said, if you're not growing and learning, you're going to, at some point, be stagnant and stalled out. And so that's actually one of the things I say when I'm making my offer to join my program, is that this is an opportunity for you to learn and grow. Like, this is really you investing in yourself to become the best that you can be, because we all need that, and we all need each other. We all need help.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any successful person in the world that didn't get some help somewhere or didn't learn.
Right. I totally agree. And if they say they don't, I don't feel it's truthful.
Yeah. But to come under a mentor, or to come into some place where there's somebody that's done what you want to do and can show you and can teach you, that to me is ongoing. It's always in my budget. It's just a part of my business plan. So I think you do need to plan for it. You do need to look at your goals and say, well, how am I going to reach that goal with what I have now or what I know now? Do I need some expert to teach me, or do I need a mentor in this, or do I need a course or a program? Or last year I enrolled in a very actually pretty pricey program around speaking, and this year it's developing my business plan, and actually this year I've invested in becoming a licensed, certified mentor for a program, the program that I've been in around business structure, and he calls it the financial engine. It's a great business model for coaches, and it's helped me a lot. And so I've invested in, it's sort of like people can say they're licensed to teach, what's that guy's name? Not Tony Robbins, but John Maxwell, certified John Maxwell. So it's sort of like that. And so I decided to invest in that. But with that was him pouring into us and teaching us how to do that, and lots of things around, the business growth, like beyond, beyond, like, do you want to grow your business to the point where you can sell it? I had never thought of that before.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay,
it's a
let
good
me
thing
learn
to
that.
think of. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, I want to dive into emerging life coaching a little bit more and focus on the company in the second half, but
Sure.
We'll be right back. Do you dream of standing confidently in front of a captivated audience, sharing your message with impact, inspiring change, and effortlessly making an irresistible offer? Introducing Own the Room, an immersive 8-week course meticulously designed for entrepreneurs, leaders, and coaches who are determined to leave an indelible mark every time they step on stage. Why Own the Room? In today's digital age where audiences are bombarded with messages, creating a signature talk that stands out is non-negotiable. But it's not about fancy vocabulary or gimmicks. It's about authentic storytelling, purposeful structure, and genuine connections. And this course is your step-by-step blueprint to mastering them all. Whether you're addressing a room of 10 or an audience of thousands, your message deserves to be heard, felt, and acted upon. With Own the Room, you're not just learning, you're transforming into the speaker you were destined to be. The regular price is $9.97. As a Chamber of Commerce member, you will receive a 20% discount. For more information, go to emerginglifecoaching.com. That's emerginglifecoaching.com. Back to the episode. All right, and we are back, and I want to start off in this and say, I am a huge skeptic. I have always seen things, and granted, I want to talk about this a little bit further, but I've seen things that are leadership coaching, life coaching, business coaching, different things. I've always been a huge skeptic about it. Coming into that from that standpoint, what do you want people to know about emerging life coaching that might break through that stigmatism is not the right word, that might break through that perception people have of what a coaching business is?
Yeah, there's these, I forget what show it was, but they had one character became a life coach, and it was really funny, but they just made such a joke out of, oh, you're a life coach. And I know that a lot of people kind of see it that way because they don't understand it. And even though coaching's been around for a while now, it's still fairly new in the grand scheme of things as an industry or a modality. But what I would love for people to know is that it's a very powerful modality. It's not the same thing as mentoring. It's not the same thing as therapy. It's not the same thing as consulting. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people get that all mixed up. And even people who say they're coaching are actually a lot of times mentoring, but they think they're coaching. Coaching has a very specific set of skills involved in it. There are some overlap things there with some therapeutic kinds of treatments or, like behavior modification kinds of things that you do in coaching. You help people change how they're thinking and understand where their motivations are coming from and where their perspectives are coming from. But ultimately, coaching is always focused on action and moving forward. And so whatever the client wants, that's what the focus is. The coach does not come in ever and in true coaching and give advice or say, this is what you should do. This is how you do this. When you're doing those things, you've stepped out of coaching into mentoring. Mm-hmm. And some coaches do both. I do both. But I know when I'm doing one and when I'm doing the other. Coaching is totally focused on that client. So the coach is not ever thinking, oh, this client should do this or that, and I'm going to lead them to that. If you're really coaching, what you're doing is asking questions and listening very intently, like kind of underneath what the client might be saying, and asking those questions for them to come up with their own ideas or their own viewpoint or their own aha moments. Mm-hmm. There's a neuroscience, I don't know where I read this, but it said that when you're getting advice from someone, there's nothing lighting up in your brain unless you've asked for it. Right?
I think that, yeah, absolutely, because there's been multiple moments that I ask for it and I know I'm incredibly active. And then if I haven't asked for that advice, I'm kind of like, great, thank you.
Yeah. But if you come up with your own, if somebody's asking you questions, it's making you think and making you go deeper and think about things that you've never thought about before and kind of draw out of you those things that we usually just kind of overlook or we're not aware of it because we're just busy and we're in that autopilot or we're just doing the next thing. But if you're actually sitting there and somebody's asking you these questions that make you sit and go, oh, I don't know. And the coach will be like, well, let's think about this. Let's really dive into this, and not letting you off the hook, but helping you to reach in deeper. And then you have this insight that you hadn't ever realized before, or a memory comes to you, or a thought, or a realization, and you're like, oh, wow, I never thought of that before. And you start to unpack it, and you come out of that with this new insight into either who you are, or who you want to become, or what you want to achieve. That is going to stick with you. And you're going to take action on that because it was your idea. It was your thought.
Yeah.
And it's the space that you give to your client that allows them that time to go that far and that deep, and without any kind of fear of being judged or being steered towards a certain answer. Like, the coach holds this space where there's no judgment, and it's just a space of curiosity. It's a safe space to explore, and the client, it's all on the client, like drawing everything out of them that they want to share. And that's why it's so powerful. It helps people to connect to things that they never really have the chance to anywhere else. Because if you're having a conversation with family or friends, they're usually jumping in with, oh yeah, me too. And then there's conversations about them, or they don't really understand, or there's maybe some judgments there, or a lot of emotions because, they're close to you. But when you're with a coach, it's totally objective and non-judgmental, and you just have this space
right
that you don't normally have anywhere else. And that's what the power of coaching is.
And within that, how much of it would you say, and it might not be a percentage, it's more of, in the situation, when do you know that it's time to support versus time to challenge?
Really good question. And that's one of the skills of coaching, is they call it intrusion is one of them. And I don't know what, well, even like learning how to be quiet and stay silent at the right time is actually kind of hard to do. And most new coaches, when they're learning how to coach, are like, that's one of the hardest things, that and not giving advice, is those two things. But the intrusion part, like, when do you step in and say, well, wait a minute, I heard this. And this is one thing that coaches are trained to do, is to learn how to sense and tune into their own intuition as they're listening, and frame it in a way that helps the client, gives the client permission. You're really asking permission. You're saying, I sensed this. A minute ago you said this, and it just hit me this way, and I'm wondering about it. I'm wondering if would you be willing to explore that, or would you be interested in exploring that a little further? Because I just felt this thing. And that's the way that you need to do it, instead of like trying to challenge in the way of like, you should really do this. We as coaches never say you should do this. No, it's up to them. But there are things sometimes where the client doesn't realize it. I mean, when you're talking to someone, a lot of the times you don't even know what you just said. And so when the coach comes back and reflects back to you, I heard you say this, and this is what I felt when you said this. What's going on? Or would you like to explore that? Then the client has that opportunity to be like, oh, I didn't even know I said that.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I was feeling that, but I didn't notice it. And so that's, or if you also see that your client is continually staying in a pattern and not breaking out of it, like I've had a few clients like that they just keep coming and we keep going around the block around the same issue, and they're not taking action and they're not moving forward, then I might step in and say, and I have said, we've gone around the block on the same thing and you're not moving forward. Like, what is going on? I've even said to one client, like, I don't want you to keep paying me to just have somebody to talk to, like a friend, like you need to be moving forward, or you're just wasting your money with me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to continue this unless, you do take some action and move forward, because it's not doing you any good. And that's hard to do, but that's where sometimes you have to go, because otherwise you're not really serving your client.
Right. And honestly, I love that approach when anyone takes it of, I would rather you do what's best for you than me have your money.
Yeah.
That takes it to make it about the people, not about the paycheck. And I really appreciate that. So we've been talking a little bit around, I think most people could probably guess, but could you tell us plain out, what is Emerging Life Coaching, and tell us about Emerging Life Coaching?
Yeah. So Emerging Life Coaching is my company. I'm in my 10th year, started in 2014. And I have evolved a lot over time. My niche was, or my focus was women over 50 and then it was over 40, like just women in that space where I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. My kids are growing up and leaving home, and now I want to find my thing. And I did that for a long time, and I still do it sometimes with one-on-one clients. But my focus then began to be around confidence for women entrepreneurs, or women who are already doing what they love, but they're the imposter syndrome shows up and they're not very confident. And I found that was a lot of women, and then it became really focused around speaking. And now it's still speaking, but more focused around coaches, especially because there's a statistic I read recently that said 80% of coaches don't make it past year 3. And if they do, they're kind of stuck around 36,000 to 50,000. And I've seen a lot of my own cohorts of my own colleagues, and then I've worked with hundreds of new coaches through my coach training school. I've worked with them as a success coach and then as a mentor coach. So lots and lots of new coaches, and it's a thing. Like, they don't understand how to build the business around them to sustain them, and they are just always looking for that next one-on-one client. And so this last year I realized I have learned how to do that. Mm-hmm. And if I could help coaches do that, then I'm helping not only them, but all the clients they can help.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at now. It's I help them to especially learn how to get themselves out there in the bigger way, because I really believe that speaking is the best way to grow your business, because if you're in front of more than one person at a time, then you're going to attract a lot more, and then people will hear your message. They'll get to know you. You get that visibility. You build that credibility and that authority. So really learning how to put together a talk and getting out there in front of people, even building your own platform, having your own workshops and your own events. I've always done that, and I love doing that, and I love helping people. I love the word crafting. I love the storytelling. So that's where, I really focus, but behind that is helping them build that business underneath them. And what do I do with the people coming to me? And what are the systems I need to put in place? And, how does this plan work for me? What kind of model do I have? Because a lot of coaches don't have a model. Right. They don't have a structure. They don't have a plan. So that's where I'm at now. I also love to locally help business owners and entrepreneurs with the speaking. And so I have a program on, presenting skills and putting together your signature talk, because we're always out there talking and speaking, and learning how to do that well can help you grow your business and also help you grow your confidence. And so I do that in person here in our area, and that's where I've been focused in the last few years, I guess. So
yeah, that's a huge part of it that I feel like a lot of small business owners, particularly right at the beginning, don't realize. Networking is a skill. Yeah. It's not as easy as going in the room and talking to people. I can talk in circles around a ton of people, but someone put it really well to me not too long ago that was, if you spend that whole time talking fully personal, they're going to walk away going, they were great. What do they do? And if you do the whole time and you're just selling to them, they're going to be like, great, I feel like I've been sold to, not like I've been talked to.
Yeah, exactly.
So because you're on this podcast multiple times this year, something I'm doing with our guests that are reoccurring, I want to look at your goalpost for the rest of this year so that as members see you, as people talk to you in the upcoming months, they can ask and check in on your progress. So before, we're going to call this quarter one, before our next episode in quarter two, what's something you would like to have seen either yourself or the company accomplish?
So, yeah, my big goal right now is to fill my mastermind that I'm launching actually this weekend. I have a 3-day event. It's all online. I do a lot of things online and virtually. It's a 3-day event called Virtual Events Bootcamp, and it's designed to help the participants create their own events, but also understand their own why story and why they're doing what they're doing, and kind of let's look at the big picture of how running an event is going to help your business, and then help them dial into that personal story of their own, so that when they are running their event, they're showing up as this whole person and not just somebody trying to run an event to sell a program. So the whole event is going to be pretty fantastic. It's actually modeled very closely after my mentor's event that he does, because now I'm licensed to teach it. So why not? Why reinvent the wheel, right? He has really great content.
Yeah.
So that'll be coming up. And so my goal is to fill my new mastermind program this quarter. Be great to have 10 members, and then grow it throughout the year, because I'll be doing this event again 2 more times this year. And then as I develop that program, then I want to build a community from that, where people take my program for a year, but then they stay connected and they continue to grow and they become mentors for other people. Like, I would really love to grow a community around this and not just run 3 people through a program.
Right.
And then my other goal this quarter is I'm launching my Own the Room signature talk course again, and I would love to see a lot of the local business owners, entrepreneurs get into that. And I would love to be known as the speaking coach around here for business owners and entrepreneurs locally, that when anybody's like, well, I need to do a presentation, I need to learn how to speak, go see Janelle.
Right. Yeah. So. I mean, I love that. You said it's this weekend. Is that this weekend as in the 25th, 26th of February? Anyone listening, that'll have been just before this episode comes out. So for anyone listening, I do have another question, but since we're on this topic, for anyone listening, what is the best way for them to look at what's upcoming for you, get in contact, and do all of those pieces?
Sure. It's probably the best way. I have a website. I have to confess, I don't keep it as updated as I should.
It's a whole beast. I get it. Yeah.
Because sometimes I don't even think about my website. It's funny. I do so much through marketing through other people like JV Partners and that kind of thing. And I also have my own app now, which now I'm trying to build that to be my big content delivery system.
Right.
So I would say go to my app, but there's not a lot happening in there right now. But you could still download it because I'm adding to it. All my summit recordings will be added in there. I just ran a summit last week with 30 speakers. It was fantastic. So probably the best way to reach out to me to find out what's going on is just to send me an email, as I'm checking that all the time. And I do post quite a bit of what's happening, in Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Coaches Who Speak. And I will be putting my upcoming course on my website, so you can go there too.
Okay. What is that website? What's that email? And what's that social?
Yeah. So my website is emerginglifecoaching.com. My social, if you just look me up on Facebook, Janelle Anderson, you'll find me. And my group there is Coaches Who Speak. I also have a group for just women called Emerging, I forgot what the name of it is. Emerging, what is the name of that one? Fearless Women? No, Emerging Fearlessly. That's what it is, Women Emerging Fearlessly, because that was the name of my podcast that I ran for a few years. And then I have an email, which is Janelle at emerginglifecoaching.com. And my app is Emerging Life Coaching. So if you look up Emerging Life Coaching,
Branding's
you're going to find
pretty
me.
there. Yeah, absolutely. Great. I'm really glad you mentioned the podcast because I have a whole list of questions that I haven't even gotten to.
Okay.
So we'll definitely have more for next episodes. But one that I really wanted to talk about was with that podcast, the Women Emerging Fearlessly. It focused on women entrepreneurs. What challenges do you see are most common specifically for women in business, and how do you think you first take those steps to start addressing it?
Well, and that podcast really did focus a lot on confidence, imposter syndrome, because that's one of the top challenges. Even as I've done lots of market research, talked to lots of women, interviewed lots of women, and that's one of the top things is confidence. In fact, for a while I had a club called the Confidence Club because it was such a big deal that for women, it's very common to think I'm not good enough, or I need to, like even successful women have that imposter syndrome. Like they're going to find out I'm not all that, or, I just kind of plagued by those thoughts of I'm going to fail next time, or I'm not doing it good enough. And other people are looking at them thinking, man, you're fantastic. Look at what you're doing. But the women themselves are like, no, it's not good enough. And so helping women change that to look at what you've already accomplished and own it, and be proud of yourself. And yes, brag on yourself a little bit. It's okay. Women have a lot of problems with that. They feel like if I say that I'm successful, if I claim a success or an achievement as mine, then I sound like I'm bragging and boasting, and that's not good. And women just have this ingrained thing, and I don't know if it's from our society or if it's just from centuries of women sort of taking the back seat in most cultures. That actually still happens today, but it's like this ingrained thought that I really shouldn't be out in front. I shouldn't be proud of myself, or I shouldn't voice that. And so then that plays into that sense of confidence, because confidence a lot of times to women feels boastful. And a lot of times I'll say, the story of Simone Biles, who's a gymnast. And I remember hearing about this, that she was putting out there on Facebook, or I don't know if it was a video or just posts, but she was saying, I have the most awards of any other gymnast. At the time, it was true. She did. Right. I don't know if it's still true. But she was being criticized for doing that. And she just said, well, look, here they are.
Yeah. Here's my accomplishments. I did this.
I did this.
Yeah.
It's a fact. And I was like, you go. Yes, you
Absolutely.
did it.
Yeah. I agree with you so much. I know that's something that I deal with personally as well, as imposter syndrome and wondering those things. And so it is something that I think is prevalent across the board for a lot of people, but I do agree with you. It is something that you see more specifically with women or minority-owned businesses, because they have been put in that subset where you have more of a scope, more of a microscope on you than I think I would in my job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. I'm really grateful for that. I also love that you mentioned Simone Biles, because I saw something not too long ago that people were like, oh, she's going to become known as, she dates an NFL player. Couldn't name him if I tried. They were like, she's going to become just his wife. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Not her.
He's Simone Biles' husband. I don't know his name for anything.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
I totally agree with you on that. I know it's tough at times, but I appreciate that you're doing that work. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want us to know before the end of this episode? And I'm so excited for next episode, because we've still got so many more questions. But
Me too.
Yeah, is there anything else you want people to know before we leave off?
I think just that, I always say this to people, that you are greater than you think you are. And to, take the time to really know the genius that you have inside of you, because I believe everybody has something that they're really, really good at, something that can make a difference in the world, something that would fulfill them, and take the time to get to know what that is and get connected to it. If you need someone to help you, nobody gets there on their own. I had a coach. I always have a coach. There's always somebody that I go to. And, there's no shame in that. Like, that's really where we grow because, we're meant to connect. I believe that wholeheartedly. Brene Brown says we're wired for connection. And, go find someone that can really help you. I highly recommend considering working with a coach. You never would regret it, especially if you find a good one. Make sure it's somebody that's certified and trained and knows what they're doing. But, get that help and go out there and just, become the best you that you can be.
Yeah. I never think there's any harm in asking for help.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario is you find the wrong way to do something and you keep going. But you can't do it alone, no matter as many times as someone wants to say it. Jeff Bezos didn't get where Jeff Bezos is because he was Jeff Bezos.
No.
It's the people around him.
Yeah.
I mentioned Jeff Bezos a lot on this podcast. I don't know why.
I'm always saying Tony Robbins. I don't know why.
Yeah, just get those names in there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Janelle, and thank you, listeners, for listening in. We will be back in 2 weeks with our next guest. In the meantime, go out, connect, engage, and prosper.